Welcome to Uncaged. Today we're speaking with Jovan Protic. Jovan has an incredible background. He is the vice president of the board of Ringier Axel Springer, which is really Central Europe's division of Axel Springer, the European media powerhouse. He is now the AI fellow for Axel Springer here in the US, learning about artificial intelligence and all of the elements of it, and working to see how it can be applied across the media and publishing industry for Axel Springer. We're talking to Jovan today heavily about AI and his experience and transition from running a big publishing house in Central Europe to now being at the forefront of AI. So, Jovan, tell us, let's start there. You came from a big media company and now you're working on AI. Tell me about why did you make that move?
First of all, again, thank you for having me. And yes, that's true. And I hope that I'm still working for that media company and that my job will be waiting for me. But yes, it was a big change and it was a big decision for me. And I already made a similar decision, I think, one or two times in my life already, previous years. And it was always somehow good. Turned out to be a good decision, and I decided to do the same thing now. I mean, why I did it now? I mean, I remember first time I did it, it was this big change, it was year 2005, 6, 7, when we had social media appearance with Facebook, and then there was Apple with their iPhone. So there was this whole mobile transition. And that was the time I remember I was running in Europe, one small but very nice newspaper brand, and I was 27 years old. I felt super powerful, being the managing director of a newspaper. But opportunity then popped up basically to run a digital transformation of the company in Central Europe then, and I was undecided, but I decided to go for it.
Yeah.
When I look back, basically this was the best decision of my life, because it opened some completely new horizons for me, and allowed me to work with people in different countries to create amazing businesses. And we all know what happened later on, basically. So, and now I recognize pretty much the same pattern.
Yeah.
The AI, it's on one hand, there is a lot of experts out there, but when you dig deeper, there's not really many experts out there. So there is a lot of this kind of repetitive stories and talks and empty stories. And there are really very few that really understand this topic inside out.
Yeah.
On one hand, and I thought that Silicon Valley, and not only me, but one of my mother companies, so Axel Springer, they came up with this idea of this fellowship program for 6 months, where basically they sent one of their top executives, or maybe even more than one, to the locations where changes are really being created.
Yeah.
And that's how it happened for me. So I came here. I'm already 4 months here. It was a very good decision, because first of all, what I see now in San Francisco and in the Bay Area, there are, I think, 6 to 7 events around AI every day.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that sounds a lot, but it's really the factual state of affairs. I mean, there is a lot of insights, a lot of knowledge, a lot of creativity. Obviously, there is a lot of, I would say, it's a small war here for the, investment opportunities into a nice AI
startup. Well, I mean, look, the reality is that over the last 18 months, there really has not been a topic that has captured the imagination of the business world that is bigger than AI. Everyone's talking about AI, and certainly everyone wants to know how AI is going to impact their business vertical that they play in. And certainly your business vertical of media and journalism is in the same boat. Everyone wants to understand how AI is going to play in the media and journalism space. I mean, what are you seeing as some of the implications in that space?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is basically the primary reason why I'm here. I want to understand basically the implications for our industry in the first place, being basically media and marketplaces. And I mean, I spoke to a lot of people, like, ranging from VCs, startup founders, CEOs of big tech, like, media executives. And what I see is that, at the beginning, we had a lot of this kind of skepticism, I would say, around AI in the media industry. And like, I would even say a bit of fear. How is this going to influence us? Like, will we lose the distribution channels?
Mm-hmm.
Also, like, will this produce a bunch of fake content? Will this thing be creating content basically, and bring to the situation where there is no need for journalism? And after spending some time here, I mean, it's never, you should never say 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
that the best time for journalism is in front of us.
that's
And
amazing.
I
I
think
love that position.
that we will have now, like, this whole new elite of power AI augmented journalists that will be able to do better journalism that we have ever seen in history. And there are multiple reasons why I believe that. I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, like, if you look at digital journalism today, there is a lot of this kind of technical, repetitive, boring work that journalists still have to do,
Yeah.
that is not really core of what their profession is about. Like, so there is a, SEO optimization, link saturations, cross-linking, alternative headlines, social media distribution. Like, this is taking probably 25-30% of the time of a journalist. And this can all now be automated. And that's one. Second thing, like content discovery. Like, imagine we now have tools that will enable journalists to analyze millions of unstructured archive files, looking for the correlation in this data, trying to structure them, and discovering the news. We have, like, tools that will be transcribing real-time offline events, basically in search for the keywords and discovering the information. So, I think that the things that were preventing journalists to do more of this amazing quality will be now taken off their plate, and they will be focused on what they do the best, which is basically, this pure journalism. It'll be a great time.
It is a great time. And let me ask a question from the world that I came from. As you know, Jovan, I used to work in the advertising industry for many, many years. And I think we know that advertising still plays a big role in the commercial models for media and journalism. So, I mean, how are ads going to shift? I mean, what does it look like for the commercial area?
Yeah, advertising is another industry that like, will go through crazy times. Like, because I mean, so far we were talking about, this performance marketing and, like, this mass customization of ads, and like, but I think that what we are getting into now is a kind of era in which we will see personalized ads generation for every user basically visiting a given website. So from personalized recommendation, where we had, like, I don't know, 100 different advertisements which were pre-created and then served or recommended to the user based on his preferences.
Right.
We are now entering the stage where we will have elements of the advertisements, be the color or, like, some brand elements or like product itself, and then dependent on the, like, user coming to the page, we will see automatic generation using LLMs basically of the ads on spot. Yeah. So from kind of personalized recommendations, we are entering into personalized ads generation, which I think will be, like, a very interesting time. Another thing is like creativity. I mean, I think that all the tools, they are appearing every day. And, like, last week we saw Sora from OpenAI, Picas of this world, and, like, many other tools that I had an opportunity to, talk to in the meantime. I mean, they give us enormous additional creative opportunities.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm excited to see.
Creativity at scale is something that's probably the word I would, or phrase I would never use, like, 1 year ago.
Yeah.
Now I see that it's becoming possible to be creative at scale.
Oh, I love that. I love
And that,
that
that's, I
thinking.
think,
Yeah.
very, very interesting, you know. And then also these new devices, like, you know, if you think of, I don't know, Apple Vision Pro
Hmm.
or the Peer device from Meta. I mean, like we will have immersive advertisements very soon.
Yeah.
I mean, let's see how far this device go when it comes to, you know, scale, because with $3,500, I think, you know,
Not everyone's gonna get that. No,
yeah,
but
exactly.
step by step.
Like if this gets into many hands and like, you know, many homes, I think that this creates really some amazing new experiences, like, you know, and like also potential for us as an industry, advertising industry, to create some great
Well,
experience.
well, listen, I mean, Jovan, talking to you, I get the sense, obviously, that there's a lot happening. The possibilities are amazing. Certainly, the possibilities to deliver change at scale are huge. And certainly, I imagine that is exciting on one hand to many, many leaders out there, but also quite challenging to executives, right? I mean, they look at all of this and they say, gosh, it just took me so long just to handle the things I do on a day-to-day basis. So tell me what you think leaders should be doing to adjust to this mega trend.
Well, you know, I think that it's the most important is that you challenge yourself. I mean,
Mhm.
starting from ourselves as the leaders, you know, because I think that with every new technology and, like, you know, more senior you are in your leadership position, you become a little bit more passive. Yeah,
Mm,
you don't want to test another device or new thing, or, like, you know, new platform or place where you. But, you know, at the end of the day, the problem is that your user, your customer, they spend time there,
yeah,
and they use it and they test it and they like it. And then if you do not push yourself to try it, to test it, to understand it, you basically, you're taking the risk to become, you know, the thing of past, you know,
right,
yourself and your company. So I would
right.
say that's the first thing. And this AI trend is particularly now important to be understood by the leaders, because only then they will be able to coach their organization
Right.
towards the success, towards the success. And then, you know, like, you know, being close and trying to understand, and then securing and creating the learning organization, because as you
Yeah.
can see, every 2 weeks there is a new announcement around AI. And you know, there is no such thing that we now know what's the new reality, and we can now, you know, set up the process and create a plan, and we shoot for the next 3 years and we have it. No, this thing is changing every year, every day, basically, not year.
Yeah.
So you need a flexible organization that is able to, you know, reinvent itself on a kind of weekly basis, be flexible, and kind of grow with the momentum now. And yes, and obviously, you know, you also, as a leader, I think you need to recognize the potential that you have within the organization, and reward, basically, and praise people who are moving your organization forward. Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that this is particularly now important, because you know, like there will be a lot of innovation now in the
Well, I
future.
mean, I gotta say that probably one of the key things for a leader is to not only know how to track trends, make the most of it, but also to figure out how to bring the right talent into the company and how to train folks with the right skills. And I think that one of the things that I find most interesting about AI is how it potentially shifts the types of skills that we would want people to have going forward. And we lived through a generation where if you were a computer scientist, that was the best thing you could be, right? You could code and do all that type of stuff. I've read reports that AI is really favoring creative thinking. Tell me a little bit about what types of skills you think that folks are going to need to make the most of AI.
That's a very good one. I mean, like you probably heard Sam Altman saying a couple of months ago that, you know, we are reaching the stage or state when like, you know, $1 billion companies will be created by the single human being.
Yeah.
And or basically, you know, Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, who basically advised parents not to send their kids to programming schools like a week ago. So basically, when you think about it, what skill do you need when all the obstacles are like, taken away? One
Yeah.
human being can create like unicorn. I mean, what you need is ideas.
Yeah.
You need people with the ideas.
Yeah.
Like people who have the ideas are not afraid to take a risk and implement them. And you should somehow, as a leader, and we as organization, we should probably clean the path for them, because in the times of AI, like these ideas and testing of these ideas is also like not getting too expensive anymore. So
Yeah.
it's much more affordable to do that. So we need to identify these people. We need to nurture these people. We need to give them the space, basically, and make sure that they can really exercise this creativity. Because in this new world, it seems that creativity will be the most critical skill.
Let me ask a question from the perspective of the enterprise. You are the fellow of Axel Springer, and you're learning all about AI. I mean, Axel Springer, for those that are not from the media world that are listening, is literally the largest media company in Europe. They are an incredible business and really touch every media channel. But I mean, certainly Axel Springer's thinking about this. That's why you're there. And they must be thinking about, should we be investing more in AI? Are there specific areas? When you think about that, what are the areas that you think are worth putting bets on? And, what are the other areas that we can kind of put aside for a while?
Yeah. I mean, speaking of my company, I mean, I'm extremely lucky to work for a company that decided to really embrace AI in
Yeah.
full. And I think that the best proof for that is that I'm not sitting in Europe and running my company, but I'm basically spending 6 months here, sorry. But maybe I'll try to answer your question. Obviously, as Axel Springer, but also our other shareholder, Ringier, and our joint venture, Ringier Axel Springer, we have a lot of initiatives around AI, a lot of experiments, and we are testing how it will affect like every single part of our organization. And you probably read recently that Axel Springer also was one of the first companies to sign a licensing deal with OpenAI. So there's really a lot of things going on. But now not speaking about my company, but in general, I think what all the large enterprises out there should be considering doing is like how to implement this thing systematically across the board.
Right.
I think that this technology is already like 1.5 years old, or even 2, like speaking about generative AI. And I think that, we are passing the stage of experimentation. Like, first year was about, okay, let's test it here and there to see if it works, how users will react, how customers will react. But I think that now, I'm talking to a lot of people here. What I see is that the big companies are now like basically going towards like a structured approach where they are analyzing every process of the organization, where they are mapping basically if there are available AI tools that can help them optimize this process, or like do it better and faster, or with better output, with more more productively. So I think that now it's the stage of cautious scaling.
Cautious scale. Nice.
Exactly. And not still doing it cautiously, because there is still a lot of hype, and there is still a lot of promises, which sometimes are false promises. And you hear from all these startups that there is a tool that will optimize your process and you will save 30% of you will earn 30% or more. But then when you test it, it's not really like that. So it takes a lot of testing and trying, but like slowly we should be thinking of spreading this thing across the board.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I think that's a really good way of framing it up. And I mean, I think we've talked about a lot of stuff today here, Jovan. And certainly, I imagine after 2 more months in Silicon Valley, there's going to be another dozen topics that we could touch upon in the AI space. But I mean, if I gave you kind of a last word today, what would you want to be telling executives out there that they need to be thinking about AI?
Well, I would say, push yourself to learn this thing, like learn about AI yourself. like, you know, as senior as we are, we could be like the most senior in the world. Like, you know, there is always some dose also of operational work on our table, taken away by AI. But also, if we understand this new interesting technology, we would be able to be better sparring partners and coaches to our teams. And I think that that is one thing I would like to kind of send as a message. Second,
Perfect.
I would say also that you know, every technology brings, like, you know, good and bad things, you know. And I think it's not different with AI. Yeah, there are potential misuses. We already saw quite a lot of them. But also there is this bright side of AI that can bring us to the world where every single one of us will have a personalized agent that will understand what we need and want, and will be like a helping hand in our daily life, and would be even, like, you know, executing certain part of our daily tasks. We are, like, you know, heading towards the world potentially where we will all be probably living healthier and longer because that diagnostics will be better with AI. We are, like, you know, approaching the world where we will have this kind of smart transparency and probably to the larger extent eliminated corruption, because it will be very hard to hide anything in a world where there are, like, you know, dozens of algorithms or thousands of algorithms basically understanding much better and beyond human capacity, basically correlation among the different data sets. So I think that, you know, there are a lot of great things that are also in front of us, and we should all be cautious on one hand, make sure that there is a proper regulation and that there is a proper, like, speaking of my industry, copyright laws implemented, that, you know, the publishers are rewarded for their work and for their previous work, but but also that we look, like, you know, with this kind of positive and open attitudes towards
No, I mean, look, I think that talking to you today, it's been really refreshing. I often find that on the topic of AI, there's two things that kind of happen. One is that people just really don't know anything yet. And so they're either very fearful or they're overly optimistic, one of the two. And I really think that you've painted a picture today, Jovan, of it's very pragmatic. That's kind of saying, look, you know, there's a lot of promise here. There's a lot of good things that we can do here. There's ways it's going to change industries, but let's embrace it. Let's figure it out, and let's move forward. So thank you so much for being on the Uncaged show today. We've been speaking with Jovan Protic. He's the vice president of the board for Ringier Axel Springer. He's also the AI fellow for Axel Springer, and we've been talking about AI and his time in Silicon Valley. I'm sure, Jovan, there's probably 6 more events tonight. So you'll probably have more insights for us. But thank you so much for being on the show today, and we look forward to having you back.
Thank you very much for having me.